Shalom, everybody. We're in the middle of winter now in Israel. Rains that come and go, the cold and the shivering and all that. Well, that's what's happening. But outside, oh, that's fake news I just gave you. But this is the real VFI news because so many things to report on. The UN hits an anti-Israel low. Well, that is nothing new for the UN or the United Nothings. And then Batya and I want to present a new song to all of you and the flute solos out of this world. Second of all, the outgoing Honduras president who says Christians in parliament will protect the strong ties with Israel. Let's hope so, because I am really happy about what Honduras did for Israel. Last but not least, Israel expects to establish ties with the Comoros Islands and the Maldives. I want to go to the Maldives. And there's many other news about anti-Semitism and Iran's missile drones and who knows what else. But the poor poultry is suffering. The turkeys and the chickens in the north of Israel. Will be right back with all of you. Quote, 2.5 hours ago, the UN General Assembly's Budget Committee, a budget of the whole composed of all 193 member states, decided to fund a new commission of inquiry established by the UN Human Rights Council that is intended to emasculate the state of Israel. In other words, that Israel will not be able to defend itself against terror states like Gaza and like Hamas and Islamic Jihad and the PLO and the PLFP and all that PP and stuff. Well, continuing, she said, quote, without exaggeration, it is the most hostile and dangerous anti-Israel body the UN has ever created. Not that that's anything new, to be quite honest. It will decide Israel is guilty of apartheid, validate and unleash criminal prosecution of Israelis, significantly magnify pressure on third states and business enterprises to engage in BDS, boycott, divestment, and sanctions, which is outlawed across many of the states in the United States and other European countries, and insist on an arms embargo against Israel. Well, she goes on to say, and thank you, Anne, we can and we must discredit this inquiry. What I want to tell you is a wonderful thing, though. Of all of the European countries, the only one to vote against the UN Commission's budgeting was the nation of Hungary, Magyarul. Thank you so much, Hungary, for standing with Israel. Going on, the United States, however, voted against the anti-Israel resolution, and President Joe Biden's administration envoy to the UN made it clear that it was unfair to single out or target Israel out of the permanent human rights investigations that span the entire country. So that's something thankful to the Biden administration and for the United States of America standing strong still with Israel. Let's hope it stays that way. Outgoing Honduras president says Christians in parliament will protect its strong ties with Israel. Prime Minister Naftali Bennett responded and said these words, Mr. President, you are a true friend of Israel. That is wonderful. He told Juan Orlando Hernandez shortly before the inauguration ceremony for Honduras' new embassy in Jerusalem in June, quote, the Jewish people have a long memory and you will be recorded in the pages of history as having done a brave and justified deed for the state of Israel. Not only that, but Honduras during this time period moved its embassy to Jerusalem. Good move. And recognized just that Israel is a wonderful place. And what can I say? I guess it must be wonderful because I live here for 41 years already. But Hernandez is leaving office on January 27th, and he will be replaced by somebody, I can't pronounce his name, and I don't want to do injustice, but his last name is Castro. Well, he's a self-proclaimed democratic socialist, and so what can I say? We just have to hope for the best and pray for that leader coming in. So anyways, the Christian people in Latin America, the Jewish people in Latin America, we have to create a coalition in order to advocate for Israel. And that's what Hernandez said. So thank you, Hernandez, for your time in Israel and being a blessing to us. The next great news, I can't take it, all this good news. Israel expects to establish ties with the Comoros Islands and the Maldives. Now, the Maldives, I've looked online at several hotels and islands. It looks gorgeous, beautiful. I want to go there. So I'm praying that ties will be established. Quote, the leading candidates to normalize ties with Israel next are the Muslim-majority island nations of the Comoros and Maldives, according to diplomatic sources. The sources said there were ongoing contacts. However, there were no indications from diplomatic sources that an announcement was expected anytime soon in the future. Nevertheless, I can tell you Israel people can freely go visit the Maldives. So why not? Well, more news. Soccer fans in Belgium were doing Nazi salutes and chanting about killing Jews. And one of the men, or several of the men, were chanting, my father was in the commandos, my mother was in the SS, together they burned Jews because Jews burn the best. That is despicable. That is anti-Semitism. That is racial hatred. And it's happening in various soccer venues in the Netherlands, in Belgium, and throughout Europe, in France. And this must stop. If your nation wants to be a sheep nation in the end times, you need to repent from anti-Semitism. It is a demonic spirit, and it will bring a curse upon you if you submit to anti-Semitism. So renounce it and remove the curse. Reverse the curse in Yeshua's name. Now, something else not so good. Iran believes that maneuvering missiles drones will evade Israeli air defenses and other air defenses. The Islamic Republic is seeking to improve its missile and drone capability to tap into the latest technology from Russia and China. Come on, Russia and China, don't be naughty players in the scene in the Middle East. You can be blessed if you will stand with Israel. Tehran now says it wants to learn from the experience of history how missiles have defeated air defense. Well, I won't go too much into it. Iran is thus openly saying it seeks to get around Israel's air defense system. Now remember, everybody out there, Israel has a multi-layered air defense system. We have the Arrow. We have David's Sling. You all know we have the Iron Dome. And also we have Patriot missile batteries. And Israel and the U.S. are closely cooperating on all these things. So hopefully David's Sling will put a rock right into the foreheads of the jihadists who want to wipe out Israel. And remember, Israel is not only a Jewish nation, but we have over 1.5 million Arabs that also live here and are part of the nation of Israel. So I would warn those nations out there, watch out, watch your back. And finally, in conclusion, I want to invite all of you to subscribe at the VFI News and give a thumbs up for liking it. And I want to hear more from you, what you'd like to hear about, maybe comment on something said. I really want to bring you the real news that comes from Israel and the Middle East. Last but not least, and I want to cry, 63,000 infected poultry found in northern Israel, 42,000 turkeys reportedly infected with the virus. This is not good. So I'm going to say, go steak, lamb, or vegan. I don't care, but avoid the turkeys and chickens right now in the north of Israel. And anyhow, the Israeli agricultural ministry, they pulled the eggs off the shelf that come from those farms. But it is sad. I don't want to see any chicken or turkey die until Thanksgiving, of course. Well, there goes Thanksgiving 2022. And with that, I say goodbye to all of you.